A Workplace Issue Guide, Problems at Work. Chapter 1. The Company Rules. Company Manual/Employee Handbook. The best way to protect yourself legally from your employees is to have as detailed a company manual as you can for standard of conduct and job responsibilities. Employees are well advised to read their company manual and know exactly where they stand on all issues. Even if your company is not that big, make up a simple manual that makes everything crystal clear. Give it to employees to help them learn about the rules and protect you legally in the event that a situation will come up down the line. The biggest rule is to practice what you preach. Don't put rules in that you can't practice or honor. Don't just buy a cookie-cutter rule book or software package and use it. Be specific. This informs employees what's expected of them both to help get the job done more efficiently and to make all the rules and legal issues crystal clear. Think of the company manual in two basic categories. Human Resource Issues/Employee Handbook. Company Policy Handbook. Human resources are basic logistic issues like paycheck, benefits, vacation time, medical insurance, education benefits, union relations, etc. Company policy tells the employee how to act, what to do, how to dress in some cases, and rules of conduct. Draft up a personnel manual covering all the relevant issues in your organization, give one to each individual, have them sign for it, then tell them they will have to sign a form in 7 days, ample time for them to read it, stating they have read it, understand it, and will live by these rules. You could even test them on it if you want. A company policy manual is good for both sides. It spells out what the company expects of its employees and what they will get from the company. A well-defined manual keeps everything clear. If you're really good, you will spell out the state and federal laws you're following and give addresses where employees can get more information on these laws and also who to contact if they have grievances against your company on specific issues. This way, you will look good should it ever come to pass that an employee tries to sue you on some point of law. Have a human resource person and your lawyer work together to draft it up. Hold a meeting with your top managers and ask them for points to include in your manual. After the first draft is done, hire some English literature or business students to critique it and add ideas to it. Get ideas by perusing other company websites or getting a hold of other company websites. Make the text as simple as possible. Use lots of titles and subtitles to make it easy to find specific information. Edit the manual at least twice to make it as simple and clear as possible. Give it to 2 different people to edit. You could get a secretary to do it or hire a freelance writer. Make your table of contents and index as detailed as possible. Start it with a welcome letter from the boss, then move into a brief history and background, the company vision along with an organizational chart with photographs and basic job descriptions of managers. Clearly list the company holidays each year. State the amount of vacation days and sick days and what happens to these days if they're not used. They're often converted to cash. For vacation pay, what you don't use in any year, you get paid for. With sick leave, most companies have a lifetime cap of 1,300 hours or so of unused sick leave that they won't pay you for when you leave the job. You either use them for a legitimate business or they're gone forever. In any case, run it by an employment lawyer to check it over before you print it up for the employees. Put a suggestion form at the end that the employees can tear out and write feedback about the manual and other ideas if they want. Make everybody sign for the manual, then sign a form 2 weeks later stating they have read it and understand it. Books about the company manual are at #658.45 at the library. Company Rulebook Major Points 1. The SBA at sba.gov have prepared an article called Pointers on Preparing an Employee Handbook. Some of the major points are: welcome message, company history and vision, equal employment opportunity/affirmative action statement, employment rules, employee rules, job responsibility, terms of employment, job responsibility, probationary period, grounds for termination, resignation procedure. Severance pay. Dress code. Hours of work. Chain of command. Clocking in and out. Personal evaluation report. Probationary period. Rate of pay. Shift premiums. Health and safety. Procedures for complaints. Benefits. Overtime. Raises, promotions. Expense account. Holidays. Vacations. Sick leave. Maternity leave, paternity leave. Health and life insurance. Medical benefits. Parking. Training and education. Christmas bonus. Retirement savings plan. Pension. Profit sharing plan. Jury duty. Military reserve leave. Unemployment insurance. Standard of conduct. Company rulebook major points 2. Absence from work. Attendance at social functions mandatory or elective. Dealing with the media. Dress code. Drug use at work. Drug and alcohol use off the job. General behavior. Late for work. Laziness on company time. Lunch, other breaks. Personal telephone and internet usage while at work. Personal work on company time. Responsible to read the company manual and abide by it. Treatment of customers. Workplace romance. Legal matters. Equal employment opportunity guidelines. Sexual harassment. Religious customs on the job. Political affiliations. Political or religious preaching on the job. Child support garnishing of wages. Safety and health. Safety rules. Emergency procedure. Return to work policy. Drug-free workplace. Government-mandated employee benefits. FICA, Social Security. Unemployment. Workers' compensation. Military reserve duty. Maternity leave. Time off to vote. Jury duty. State laws for employees. Insurance. Health. Life short-term disability long-term disability. Employee-company relations. Union management relations. Passing knowledge on to employees. Company newsletter. Employee complaints. Company website for employees. Suggestion box. Bulletin board. Special services. Employee discounts. Monthly newsletter. Credit union. Education plan. On-site cafeteria. On-site gym. Annual social events. Bowling league. Soccer team. Company rulebook major points 3. Overall, some of the possible topics for a company manual are as follows. Accidents. Address change. Advance in pay affirmative action attendance / absenteeism / lateness. Automobile parking. Awards. Bereavement leave. Bonding with workers. Bulletin boards. Business conference. Change of status. Communications. Complaints. Confidential information. Conflict of interest. Counseling. Credit union. Death of employee. Demotion. Disability. Discharge / termination. Dress / appearance. Drug-free workplace. Education, A2. Employment agreements approvals. Employee assistance programs. Employee services. Equal employment opportunity. Exempt / non-exempt classification. Exit interview. Expense account, travel, accommodations, meal. Flexible work schedule. Food service. Garnishment. Gifts or gratuities. Harassment. Health and welfare plans. Holidays. Hours of work. Independent contractor. Identification, employee. Insurance, life, accidental, death, dental. Internal assignment. Job descriptions. Job postings. Jury duty. Leaves and absences, disability. Leave, military. Leave. Pregnancy. Library. Lost and found. Meal allowance. Medical and dental appointments. Medical approval. Medical records. Memberships. Military reserve training, annual. Minors working. Non-union employee relations. Objectives, company. Opinion surveys. Organizational charts. Orientation of new employees. Outside employment. Overtime payment. Passes. Patents. Performance appraisal, employee. Personal time off. Personnel records, privacy, release of information. Policy and procedure manual. Political activities of employees. Probationary period, new employee. Profit sharing. Promotion. Purchases, employee. Radios. Recognition, employee. Recreation, activities. Recruiting/hiring. Relocation of employees. Retirement plan. Return to work restrictions after medical illness. Safety. Salary continuation plan. Savings bonds. Separation. Service awards. Severance pay. Sick leave. Smoking. Social security. Solicitations. Status. Definitions of employment. Suggestion plan. Telephones. Termination. Training and development. Transfer. Travel insurance. Tuition aid. Unemployment compensation tax. Uniforms. Union relations. Visitors/tours. Voting, time off to. Wage/salary administration. Work area cleanliness. Workers' compensation. Books about the company manual are at #658.45 at the library. Workplace issue websites. cdc.gov/niosh/topics/work schedules, shift issues. disability.gov/employment, employing people with disabilities. ed.gov/about/offices/list/ocr/no.html, know your rights, US Department ed. hreonline.com/hre/index.jsp, Human Resources Online. nifl.gov/nifl/facts/workforce.html. nwww.org/qwl/kck_toolkit.html, Quality Workplace Learning Toolkit. osc.gov/documents/pub/post_ppp.htm, Prohibited Personnel Practices. positivelyminnesota.com/jobseekers/index.aspx, Job Success Skills. uschamber.com/issues/default.htm, Issues and Action, US Chamber of Commerce. workforceinvestmentworks.com/workforce_boards.asp, Workforce Boards by State. Chapter 2. A glossary of general workplace issues. The following is a general list of workplace issues that need to be addressed at one time or another. Blood donation. The American Red Cross has a program whereby they will send a bloodmobile to a corporate office to take blood for donation. This could be a good thing to make your corporation look good while giving the workers who volunteer an hour or so away from the office. Some smaller corporations give employees a few hours off in the afternoon to go to the local blood donor clinic to give blood. It's your call whether you think this gives you some psychological spiritual points with your workers and the community or is just a bunch of meaningless bull. Either way. American Red Cross. 800 Give Life. redcross.org. bloodservices.ca. hema-quebec.qc.ca. 888-2 Donate. 888-462-4051. 888-666 HEMA, French. Canada. Cost of living adjustments/COLAs. The cost of living adjustment is a fairly standard annual raise in pay at most large corporations that roughly parallels the increase in the cost of living due to inflation. This figure is often derived from annual government statistics such as the Consumer Price Index. Census.gov. Daycare, Eldercare. Some large corporations offer on-site daycare/eldercare to their employees or contract this service out to nearby licensed facilities for their employees. If you are a business owner and don't offer this service, for the morale of your employees and for your image as a good guy, you have to be considerate of employees who are caretakers of children and/or older adults or disabled people, but if it gets to the point where it's disrupting their work, you have to set them straight or get them to ship out. Death, funeral. If an employee dies, you should pay respects by closing the business for the funeral and making everybody go. This makes you, the boss, look considerate. If an employee's friend or relative dies, give them the day off for the funeral and offer more unpaid time off if they want it, like a husband losing his wife or a child might want a few weeks off to grieve. First aid, emergency preparedness. Make up an evacuation plan. Buy several fire extinguishers and tell your workers about it. In some places, by law, there has to be someone qualified in first aid on staff. Anyone can take these courses through the Red Cross. Have a first aid kit on hand and a few articles or a first aid book on how to do CPR and the Heimlich maneuver for choking. Books about emergency medical care are at hashtag 362.18 or RC86.3 at the library. Books about first aid are at hashtag 616.0252 or RC86.8. DoctorYourself.com, How to Treat Yourself. firstaid.ara.org/firstaid_index. funrsc.fairfield.edu/tilde/jfleta/contents.html, Children's First Aid. Injurycontrol.com. LearnCPR.org. MayoClinic.com/findinformation/firstaid-selfcare/index. American Red Cross. 431 18th Street Northwest. Washington, D.C. 20006. 202-737-8300. 800-842-2200. Redcross.org. 2,800 chapters nationwide who offer safety and medical training. Food at work. To me, a workplace is for work. Any decent company will have a room set aside as a lunchroom where people can eat lunch and go in for a snack. I would tolerate coffee and some kind of soda in the workplace, but nothing further than that. I wouldn't tolerate a kettle or coffee machine anywhere else but the lunchroom. I wouldn't tolerate any foods in the workplace, nor those little nifty machines some people bring to work like soup machines or popcorn poppers. Put it all in a lunchroom as far away from the main body of business as you can get to avoid smells that make it seem as though someone is living there as opposed to working there. Gambling at work. Some employers don't mind if the workers play cards at lunch or place bets on sporting events. I personally think it's possible to be too much of a hard ass. Even though the conventional wisdom says to make a rule in the employee handbook that gambling while at work is strictly prohibited, I think that if employees want to do it, it's good for them. It makes them more united and feel like they're having some fun on the job. Glass ceiling. The glass ceiling is a slang term which means that women can rise only so far in a company despite all the laws about equal employment opportunities because of a quiet old boys network which still believes that men are superior and only they can do the tough, high-status jobs. No matter how good they are, no matter how good they look compared to the men in the company, they won't get promoted beyond middle management. This is the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling can also be used to describe what handicapped people and other minorities face as well as women. This is illegal, but how do you prove it? For the managers, diversity is good in the political sense that by putting women and other minorities in high positions you're showing the world how enlightened and liberal you are, which is always good for business because more women and minorities will buy from your business as a result. Holidays. There are no current laws that require employers to honor any holidays, not even the statutory or official holidays. That's just for government employees. Some businesses have to operate during holidays. The honorable ones pay employees time and a half for that day. The really cool employers give minorities time off, often unpaid or as a paid vacation day, for their holidays like Passover, Ramadan, or the Feast of Ganesh. It comes down to how you want to be perceived, as a stingy, old bastard or a cool guy who gives the employees a break now and then because you know it's good for morale. Late, coming in late, getting work done late. In a professional organization, there's very little tolerance for this. As I say in the lunch break paragraph, document it all, put the bum on probation and make him sign the clipboard on your door every day when he comes in so you can see him, and he might be embarrassed enough to shape up, or he might quit, in which case, good riddance. Leave abuse. There are some laws like the Family and Medical Leave Act which an individual can use to take time off to heal a serious illness or to care for a loved one with a serious illness, but by and large, most workers in the workforce are presumed to be normally healthy, therefore may only have a medical emergency now and then. Companies generally give employees anywhere from 10 to 30 sick days per year. What they don't use up is credited as accumulated sick leave hours, which usually has a limit of hours and is sometimes paid off in dollars to the worker when they retire or quit, but most often, what they don't use, they lose forever. The problem is that you're at work to work. If you're legitimately sick, fine, but if you're a slacker who calls in sick every third Monday or so without a doctor's letter, there's a gray area in there as to what's fair and even legal. Employers don't like slackers who call in sick all the time, even if they are using up their legitimate sick days. There are no clear answers to how to handle this dilemma. Refer to the Fair Labor Standards Act/FLSA for more information. DOL.gov. Lengthy illness. By the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, employees in companies of 50 or more workers are guaranteed up to 12 weeks unpaid leave for illness while retaining full job security. The boss doesn't have to pay them, but he could if he wants to, or you could use accumulated sick days if applicable. If the individual is not expected to recover or regain full capacity, they could move into the disability category, in which case you will have to either give them a pension or try to make reasonable accommodation for them. Whatever you do with employees in these tough situations reflects on who you are as a boss. The other workers are watching you to see how compassionate or ignorant you are. Lunch break/coffee break. When you hire people, spell out exactly what the breaks are and how long. Some people will respect that, but others will try to play you, testing you by staying on break longer and longer to see what you will do. I say don't be trivial about a good employee coming back late once in a while, but if you've got somebody coming back 5 or more minutes late every day and you don't particularly like that guy, start documenting his return times from work, pull him aside, tell him if he gets 3 more lates back from lunch, he's out of there, give him his formal warning and tell him he has to sign in every time he comes back from break on the clipboard that's hanging on your office door. This will either embarrass him enough to comply or to get lost. Nepotism. Nepotism, giving jobs to relatives, is fine, everybody does it, but you can't openly have 2 standards, one for relatives and insiders and one for the other employees. Everybody has to be treated fairly, on the same level. Nepotism gets a bad rap, but the fact is that everybody looks out for their family before they look out for the interests of others. It's not something you have to apologize for or be ashamed of. Just make sure it's a two-way street. If you give a job to a slacker and he affects the morale of the other workers by acting like a spoiled brat, you have to set him straight, give him another chance, but if he still won't or can't pull his own weight, you have to tell him his destiny is elsewhere, or tell him to come back when he's mature enough to handle a responsible job. This works doubly worse if you give a relative a relatively easy job and he doesn't have to start at the bottom like everybody else did. If you give a friend a job, make sure he pulls his weight or your other employees will scorn you. Overtime. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1937 legislated the 8-hour day and the 40-hour work week, but it also created 2 major categories describing who is eligible for overtime and who isn't. Exempt. Non-exempt. For non-exempt employees, anything they do over 40 hours in a week is paid at time and a half or more. Exempt employees are usually either salaried employees who do a job as opposed to work by the clock or piecework employees paid by their results, not the clock. The FLSA is enforced by the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division as well as state labor agencies. As an employer, if you find yourself paying out a lot of overtime, it might be cheaper to hire a new employee. DOL.gov. Personal hygiene, clean workspace, dress code. When you go to work, you're there to represent a company and be around other people, so don't be a pig, don't smell, and don't dress like you're lounging around at home even if you have your own office. Have some dignity about yourself. Personalizing the workspace. Most employees like to put a photograph of their family on their desk and a teddy bear or two, but this is not home. If someone goes too crazy on the home decor, tell them straight up, it's a professional workplace. Save the Martha Stewart crap for home. Personal use of equipment. Most employees in an office setting use the photocopy machine, stamps, fax machine, internet, etc. for their own personal use, even if the rules clearly state they're not allowed to. Management overlooks these minor uses for good workers, but they can use these violations as a basis to fire people they want to get rid of. They simply call it theft of company property. If you're concerned about too much paper being used, stamps taken for home use, lots of pens disappearing, etc., either put the supplies in a big cabinet or room in a place where everybody can see who's taking stuff out, or put a trusted employee in charge of the supply cabinet, which stays locked and is only opened by the person in charge when requests are made. In this way, you can ask him or her if anyone seems to be asking for materials then they legitimately need for work. Radio or headphones at work. Music or certain types of it bother the heck out of some people while it helps motivate others. Music at work is good if everybody more or less agrees to it and it's a middle-of-the-road type music, like mainstream pop, because somebody has always got a complaint about every other type of music. Let the employees decide. Resignations. If someone wants to resign, it's a good thing. They want to leave. You probably want them to leave too. Resigning is also a way for an employee to save face rather than being fired, and saves you from possibly being sued in court for wrongful dismissal. If someone wants to resign, get rid of them quickly. Rumors, gossip, cliques, the in crowd. If rumors, gossip, and cliques get too out of hand to the point that some employees see themselves as the superior in group and pass judgment on others, making fun of them, criticizing them, you as the boss, have to stand up and confront them all directly. Tell them this is a workplace, not a ladies' knitting club. Gossip, bullying, and little exclusive cliques will not be tolerated. Get a grip. Focus on the job and everybody get along as a team, otherwise I will be forced to get rid of a few people. After that, immediately, take the loudest ringleader, move his office to the crappiest location and give him the worst possible job in the place. Severance pay. Severance pay is appropriate for all occasions except if someone is fired, but even then, a lot of employers still give an employee a week of pay or so for every year worked, with a maximum of 12 weeks pay. Severance pay falls under the Employee Retirement Security Act of 1974, ERISA, which changes regularly, so if you're designing a severance package program, you or your HR people/lawyer should look at the latest version of it. If you terminate someone and want to get rid of them immediately, it is customary to offer an immediate check for 2 weeks' pay in lieu of having them hanging around with the customary 2 weeks' notice for terminations. Short-timers. Short-timers are people with about a year to go before retirement who start slacking off. As the boss, tell him to get back on it or you will have to put him on formal warning. Sick days. The Family Medical Leave Act of 1993/FMLA is concerned with serious illness, caring for a loved one with serious illness, and maternity and paternity leave, but on a more pragmatic day-by-day level, people are generally given X number of paid days for sick leave a year, which they use for whatever they want, including sickness but not limited to it. Is this right or wrong? What should sick days be defined as? The general consensus is as follows. Physical illness. Mental or emotional problems. Care for a sick family member. The truth is that people often use sick days for mini vacations even though they're not sick. As far as I can see, I can't think of any way to solve the problem. If you try to lower sick days, the union will get all bent out of shape. If you try to check up on people who call in sick, they will resent the intrusion, so it is where it is, another way to get paid time off from work regardless of whether you're sick or not. Time theft. Company time is for company work. When the cat is away, the mice will play. Give them an inch and they will take a mile. Let them know who's boss. Work is for work, period. They either get with the program or they're gone. Travel expenses. In order to avoid employees ripping you off when they travel on business, set a reasonable predetermined allowance for hotel room, 3 meals a day and travel expenses. Pay them that amount, and if they go over budget, unless it's an extenuating circumstance, that's their problem, not yours. Trust situations. A cousin of mine hired several clerks for his retail store, all of whom stole from him. I suggested he put a video camera right over the cash register and tell the clerk it's there. Another issue is whether you should leave employees alone at the facility to work or give them the keys to come in on their own. When I was given the keys to places I worked, I snooped around. It wasn't to steal anything, just curiosity, so if you give someone the keys, expect them to snoop at the very least. Vacation days. Most companies offer employees X number of days of paid vacation per year to be used by the employee as he sees fit, on his terms. He or she generally chooses when they want to take their time off. Unless it's a major inconvenience to the company, then they have to work out a compromise. Some workers take most of their vacation days in 1 or 2 chunks of time. Others take a few days a month. It all comes down to working out amicable arrangements with the company. The general trend is that after 6 months of work, an employee is eligible to use the X number of vacation days per year in the way he or she wants, unless it's an extenuating circumstance for the employer. Some employees don't use their vacation days but rather let them accumulate such that they will receive the money in lieu of vacation time when they eventually leave. Just like with sick days, there are lifetime caps on how many hours you can accumulate and be paid in a lump sum when you leave. Once you use up your vacation days in any year, you can't legally get any advance to you. If you have to take days off for an emergency situation, management will either deduct it from next year's vacation time or deduct it from your final paycheck when you eventually leave the company. The standard policy is that leave be taken in days at a time in increments of whatever the employee wants, 1 day at a time, 2 weeks at a time. The more advance time you give to the boss, the better off you are that it will be granted. Some employees want to use up half days, and some employers accommodate this by dispersing the vacation time in terms of hours. Chapter 3. Legal workplace issues. AIDS in the workplace. The Federal Rehabilitation Act and the American with Disabilities Act/ADA protect people with HIV or AIDS from being discriminated against in the hiring and promotion processes and from being terminated simply because they have the disease if it doesn't interfere with their performance. They can sue and win a lot of money in compensatory and punitive damages. Refer to the movie Philadelphia. These laws are also geared for refusal to serve customers with HIV or AIDS. By law, doctors, lawyers, dentists, etc. cannot refuse service to a person with AIDS, nor can hotels or restaurants refuse them service either. An employer can only test new potential employees for HIV if there is a connection between HIV and job performance or safety, risk of transmission of the disease. To test without a legitimate reason is an invasion of privacy. Because AIDS can't be transferred through casual contact, workers cannot legally refuse to work with someone with AIDS without facing termination. Managers have to contend with employees who have the disease, employees whose family members or friends have the disease, and fellow employees who are afraid of catching it. According to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, ADA, AIDS is classified a disability and must be dealt with the same sensitivity as any other disability in the workplace. Employers must accommodate disabled in any of a number of ways, as long as it's reasonable and not cost prohibitive. The most common adaptations employers make for disabled employees are to offer flexible work schedules, adapt furniture for them, set up a special telephone for them. The Rehabilitation Act and the ADA apply only to certain companies in terms of size and federal contracts, but the spirit of these laws and other laws mean that employers must make a reasonable effort to accommodate their disabled workers, including those afflicted with AIDS. Currently, the ADA only applies to organizations with 15 or more employees. According to the Family and Medical Leave Act/FMLA, employers with 50 or more employees are obligated to give up to 12 weeks of unpaid, job-protected leave to an employee who is caring for a worker with AIDS. The general rule of thumb is that as long as the employee is able to complete tasks and there is no legitimate reason for termination, you're better off working with the AIDS employee than trying to fire him and risk a discrimination lawsuit. If the employee is no longer able to do his or her job productively, terminate him or her with compassion and respect. Keep your legal obligations in mind. In the long run, the better you treat an employee with AIDS, the better your other employees see you, because they're all thinking, by the grace of God there go I. Some employers offer a seminar or workshop on AIDS sensitivity to help increase understanding on the part of employees. If you have an employee assistance program, get your AIDS employee into it. For more information, check with the EEOC and talk with an employment and discrimination law attorney. thebody.com/forum/AIDS/workplace. Defamation/libel and slander. Very briefly, defamation refers to a company or individual making false, serious misconduct statements about a person or company. Slander is generally defined as making an oral statement. Libel is generally defined as making a written statement. The charges generally can only stick if the statements are made publicly or in the public domain. If the statements are made in so-called privileged settings, they can't be actionable as defamatory. The statements also have to be clearly intended to be fact and not just opinion, so it would be difficult to prove in court, so it's a very ambiguous area and you should consult a professional before proceeding with such an action. law.justanswer.com/libel. ericusby.com/webpage/papers/constitutional.htm, constitutionally restricted speech and analytical history of libel. If you lose your job through competition from imports. If you lose your job through competition from imports, you may be entitled to adjustment assistance from the dole. Via the 1975 Trade Act, 3 or more workers may petition the Office of Trade Adjustment Assistance, Bureau of International Labor Affairs, Dole, Washington, D.C. 20210 dol.gov. You could receive a weekly paycheck for a year, job training help, job placement help and a relocation allowance. Deducting the job hunt on your income tax. You can deduct job search costs from your income taxes as a miscellaneous deduction on your federal income tax return. Keep your receipts for books, CDs, employment agency fees, resume writing fees and travel expenses. If you find a job in another area and have to move, moving expenses are tax deductible. Some education for updating your job search and occupational skills are deductible. irs.gov. The legal aspect of job security. Job security exists if you're in a union or tenured as a professor. There are various federal and state laws regarding termination, but everything is null and void if the company goes bankrupt or decides to relocate in Mexico. Millions of manufacturing jobs in America have been lost when companies relocated to a third world country. In most cases, there's no such thing as job security unless you own your own business. Read my business and money-making books. I went through a job loss once. It was enough for me to learn that I would never take my life for granted again. That's why I wrote all these books about taking control of your own life. Don't be dependent on anything, not even the company you work for. They closed a truck manufacturing plant near London, Ontario out of the blue. None of the employees saw it coming. The guy said he worked there for 16 years, then they closed it down just like that. This is why I'm pro small business and pro homesteading or self-sufficiency. Do most things for yourself. If you have a good job, either start a small side business, take a second part-time job, keep taking courses to upgrade your skill level, or take courses for another field that's always in demand like an allied health field, electrician, or plumber. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/job_security. evaluationengineering.com/archive/article/0401salary.htm, job security takes a beating. scorelog9.com/wsj.asp, how secure is your job? Religion in the workplace. Keep religion out of the workplace unless you're all the same religion, then you can share with each other, but if there's an atheist in the room, leave him be. Most atheists have analyzed their lives and concluded that God is a myth. They're not lost souls. They're logical people who have thought it through. There's nothing wrong with identifying your business as a Christian or Muslim business, but don't force it on employees or customers. It can be construed as harassment. It's a two-way street. I don't want people hassling me with their religion, but at the same time there are some laws in place that grant employees certain rights in practicing their religion at work, such as wearing their unique clothes or taking certain days off. Any discussion of religion in the workplace is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Try #291.1785 at the library. ChristianityToday.com/workplace/articles. clearleading.com/site/freedom-of-religion.html. entrepreneur.com/management/legal issues. Know what accommodations you're legally required to make when employees need time off work for religious observances. faithintheworkplace.com. hrc.org/worknet, Human Rights Campaign. religionintheworkplace.com. religionnewsblog.com/category/religion-in-the-workplace. Religioustilren.